Hey folks, just a quick video on how to title and then how to make a counter argument for your paper. So, folks, remember your title um, needs to have two parts: a hook that grabs your reader, and it can use interesting language, it can use a verb, and the keywords. The keywords are what your paper is about. The keywords should let us know, oh, this paper is about this, right? Science papers, right, STEM papers, they mostly have keyword titles, right? So that's fine if you just have a keyword title. The main point is your title needs to be specific. It's not a mystery novel. You need to tell us what your paper is about. A hook is optional, but I think it really does draw readers in. So let's take a look at some titles on Google Scholar and how some real writers do this. So here you have one. Let me blow this up. Fatherhood isn't easy like motherhood, representing fatherhood and the nuclear family on popular TV. As you can see, the hook is fatherhood isn't easy like motherhood, right? That's the hook. That's the interesting language. It's kind of controversial, so they threw that in there as the hook. And then the keywords are, representation, fatherhood, nuclear family, popular TV, right? So I think this is an effective title. And again, it sort of has this controversial phrase as their hook. Here's another one: desperately becoming a father, representations of fatherhood in Desperate Housewives. So you can see their hook is sort of a verb or an adverb, desperately, right? So that's sort of makes it interesting language, desperately becoming a father, right? So it's an interesting image too. So it's sort of like a verb image hook. And then the keywords, representations, fatherhood, and then the TV show Desperate Housewives. Or, you can make a hook as a question. Where have all the fathers gone? Right? TV representations of fatherhood. So I think that's really interesting too, is just make your hook a question, right? Where have all the good fathers gone? Or all the good mothers gone, right? Right, where are they, right? I'm kind of curious, really, all the fathers are gone? I don't know about that. So it's kind of controversial. It's an interesting question. Does that make sense? So you've got, the hook and then the keywords. I know, right, this article is about TV representations of fatherhood, right? I know that this is about representation of fatherhood in Desperate Housewives, right? Very clear. We can go through a few more examples. This is about Laugh Track, laughing together, TV comedy audiences, and the laugh track, right? So the laughing together question mark, that's the hook, right? Again, they're making their interesting component of their title a question, right? Some mystery, right? So laughing together, right? And then the keywords are TV comedy audiences and the laugh track. Or don't make me laugh, exclamation, right? Morality, ethics, and the laugh track, right? So the hook here is don't make me laugh, kind of funny. And then this paper is about, looking at morality and ethics of the laugh track and the laugh track. You could frame that any which way, right? So I know what this paper is about. So your title should really do something like this. And I always love going to Google Scholar for inspiration, right? See how people have written titles on your topic. And this is also, a great way to do your introduction while we're here on Google Scholar. Your introduction needs to introduce us to the research that is known, right? The facts that are known on your topic, right? This is a scientific process. So if you're writing about laugh tracks, right, you're going to start by summarizing this research that you see, right, in your introduction, like a page, right? Bohr 2011 says this, Fukushima 2010 says this about laugh tracks, and I argue that I'm going to look at laugh tracks on more recent shows and show how laugh tracks have changed, right? So you start with what's known, what's fact. That's an introduction, right? And any science, technology, engineering, math article does that. It looks like, okay, here's what we know about the recent developments in plasticology or bioengineering, right? This is all all known fact. They cite a bunch of previous research, and then you get into, well, what are you saying? What are you adding that's new? That's where you come in, right? If you're talking about propaganda, right, I would start by summarizing in your intro this conversation on what is being said on propaganda by major researchers, by major educational institutions, right? So I'd be like, okay, Barenboim 2022 says this, Denman 2023 says that, Hattrick 2022, says this about propaganda on shows like Watchmen. Before you even get to what you're adding that is new, right? So you want to start with what has been said, what is known, and your claim is the new thing that you're adding to this research. Does that make sense? So you start with what is known, what is fact, then what you're adding that is new and not known. Okay? Lastly, let's talk about counter-argument. Your counter-argument is, arguably, I think, one of the most important parts of your paper. This is where you acknowledge other sides, right? Other perspectives, other points of view. Essentially, this is where you're being the most persuasive. You're bursting out of your bubble and you're saying, hey, other sides that would disagree with me, let me acknowledge your concerns. Let me speak to you. So folks, we're not writing to people only within our bubble, okay? The counter argument is where you break the bubble and you say, a lot of people might disagree with me. Let me look at those positions and respond to those. Let me acknowledge other ideas, other points of views, differences, right? People who would argue against me. So let's give an example of, I'm writing about propaganda, right? This is my argument. I'm writing about propaganda on Paw Patrol, which we looked at in the last video, right? So I have, I've looked up articles on this, and I know, I've read a lot of this stuff on propaganda, and my introduction starts with, explaining propaganda. And propaganda is content that encourages audiences to see policing and police violence as fair, noble, and necessary. Right? That's what propaganda is. So that's my argument. I'm going to look at propaganda on kids shows like Paw Patrol, and I'm going to make a claim of value, right? Kids are too young to be able to handle this kind of propaganda, right? So it's a claim of value. It may be a claim of policy. Maybe we need some trigger warnings around shows like this. Although, it's freedom of speech. Shows can do whatever they want. But I want to suggest a trigger warning. So that's my argument, right? So my counter argument, folks, your counter argument needs to be a major position that goes against your own. Don't think of like, what would anybody, disagree with me about? You want to find like a major school of thought or a major idea that goes against you, right? A major position. So, in Google Scholar, I look up research on kids, television, reality, fiction, cognition, development, right? I'm trying to find positions that show that kids are smarter than we think. Maybe they can see through this propaganda stuff, right? So I indeed find one, right? An article, like several articles, that prove that kids can tell the difference between fiction and reality, right? So Wright, 1994, shows that kids understood that fictional programs were not factual, okay? This goes against my claim that saying propaganda on kids' shows has an effect on children, right? It has a big effect on children, right? Kids are too young to be bombarded by this indoctrinated propaganda about cops, right? So I need to acknowledge, summarize, right, this research that, no, kids actually can tell fact from reality, and then respond, right? So my counter argument is, this goes against my claim. Here's what they say. Here's what the research shows. But then I return to my claim saying, but research does show that overall, TV does affect our perceptions of reality. So I return to my claim at the end. That's what a good counter-argument does. It takes on a major position or school of thought that goes against ours, right? Burst your bubble, and then still return to why you think your claim is true. So I hope that helps with title and counter-argument and a little bit of intro. Okay, folks, I'll see you in the next video.